Shush. Okay. Welcome everybody who's tuning in. I might sound a little weird tonight. I've had some dental work and it is hurting to speak. We're going to try and do this. If it becomes too much, I might just end the stream early. Unfortunately. But I might sound a little dumb, or hard, because I'm trying to speak without my tongue as much. It turns out, very hard thing to do. And here in about half an hour or so, I'll have to interrupt the stream anyways to my friends dropping some things off or whatever. So we'll take a small intermission, but I will wait for people to appear. Before we get too far into this. Hey Hudson, welcome. We're actually watching a video tonight that you suggested. Boom. We're going to be looking at this video from DexGG where he says, was Wolfenstein 2 anti-white? Which is just insane. And I saw what you were saying when you linked the video where you said that like somebody left a comment about white and black being American thinking. And for the most part, that is kind of true. Like, as much as white and like non-white played a big part in like Nazis' incursions and shit, what we think of as black and white and what Europe thinks of as like white are very different. Mainly because Europe is like hyper racist. They're competitive racism where like they don't just care that you're white, they care that you're like white from like a specific region or anything like that. That was especially true in the case of the Nazis. It was very hypocritical in a lot of places, obviously. Adolf was a brown-haired, brown-eyed Austrian man leading the true Aryan race, but you can't ask too much of fascist or racists. I'm going to drink a lot of water tonight. The Nazis didn't completely copy us since they thought we were too harsh. In some places, yeah. But anyways, we'll get into this. I watched like the first 5 minutes of this video, and I was very unsure of what his purpose and what his like viewpoint going into it was, because he doesn't really ever have a thesis. He's just sort of like, there's the title of the video and then he just starts. I know he's like an ex-Vice journalist, and the fact that this is not laid out super clearly kind of tells me why he's an ex-journalist. But I didn't get too far into it, so I won't rip on him too much. I'm not exactly sure what the point trying to be made in the video is, other than answering the question, was Wolfenstein 2 anti-white? Which, no, not at all. If anything, it's anti-fascism and anti-authoritarianism, which, you know, there's some things right at where I stopped watching that he started talking about that I think will come more into play as we get into this. But why don't we just get right into this? Fact, the KKK was started by a Democrat. I don't give a fuck, dude. Who cares? Who do the KKK support today in 2026? Because it's not Democrats. I'm not even a Democrat myself. The video is that Wolfenstein is weird. I mean, yeah, it's weird. It's set in an alternate timeline where Nazis took over the America, took over the states. Oh, man. Sorry, I can't take that fucking comment seriously. Fact. Shut the fuck up. All right, let's start into this and let him do his like slow burn introduction thing.
Have you taken your German lessons?
Oh, yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Good. You. How do you say thank you in German?
If you've never played Wolfenstein 2, it's kind of hard to explain because you need a lot of context. Because it's a game where you...
The context of Wolfenstein 2 is that it takes place in an alternate timeline where the Nazis use ancient Jewish technology to build space robots in the 40s. They win World War II by nuking Manhattan, and they take over the globe. That's about it.
Kill Nazis, but you can also listen to them talk. And despite the plot being about a white guy defending America, a bunch of gamers thought it was anti-America, or at least anti-white.
Come and fucking get...
I would say the people who thought that Wolfenstein 2 was anti-America, like that other Wolfenstein 2 we watched a while ago that came out when Wolfenstein 2 came out, the guy who said, I'm not a racist, and then he threw up like the most racist caricature of a Jewish man ever. Those are the kind of people that think that Wolfenstein 2 is anti-America or anti-white. The people who, you know, the Venn diagram between them and fictional sci-fi Nazis is getting closer to a circle. Perhaps an oval more than a Venn.
White-ass fascist Nazi pigs.
And people were really mad about this. But the weirdest part was that the people who made the game saw all that internet anger and basically said,
So, fuck those guys. Like,
It sounds like, okay, are we talking about Trump here?
all right, wait a second. So the guy on the left there, that's me.
I love that. Like, the reaction to the people who said that they're mad that we're making fun of Nazis was, fuck those guys. Yeah, fuck those guys. If you're upset that like they're making fun of Nazis and like Nazi rhetoric and shit, especially today, fuck you. You deserve it.
And you might be wondering how I got there.
How can it be anti-America if we're trying to take back America and make it better? Well, as he'll get into in this video, is the fact that Wolfenstein 2 took a lot of things that Trump was saying and like the MAGA movement was saying in 2017 and used that for social media marketing purposes on Twitter. Because they would say things like Trump's like, there were fine people on both sides when he's talking about Charlottesville and the neo-Nazis that were literally marching with tiki torches. And like he'll show in this video that same tweet where Wolfenstein 2 as a game said, these are not fine people. And it's like a clip of BJ Blazkowicz cutting a Nazi's head off. And it's like, the people who think it's anti-America are the people who want America to be more Nazi-like. You know, it's like there was that tweet that blew up a few weeks ago or whatever of someone saying, you know, there's all these like anti-Nazi games, but how come there's no anti-communist games? And it's like, well, first of all, there are. Second of all, why are you so upset at the fact that there's so many anti-Nazi games? There should be more anti-Nazi games. If we're being honest, I would love more games where I can brutalize Nazis. What's wrong with that? Yeah, Metro is very much anti-communist, as much as it is like basically what Russia is. Although I don't know necessarily, I didn't pick up necessarily on like anti-communist rhetoric in the games itself. I played Exodus. But I'm unfamiliar with the deeper, but it is as anti-communist as Wolfenstein is, where it's like not actually talking about the, like Wolfenstein is not anti-Nazi because it goes into what Nazism is and it breaks down why it's bad and the ideological reasons for saying fuck Nazis. It's just anti-Nazi in that the Nazis are the bad guys and they're abhorrent and you murder them. And that's the same kind of like anti-communism that you get in Metro, from what I remember experiencing in Exodus. But I know the books were also written by a Russian man, so I'm not sure quite the difference between the literary work and the whatever. More anti-Nazi and anti-commie games, period. Sure. Make whatever fucking game you want. The point of bringing up that tweet or something like that, Dmitry Gul, I'm not even going to attempt it. Fucking Reds. But like the point of bringing up a tweet like that is that like it's odd for someone to say, how come there's no anti-communist games, but there's all these games about killing Nazis, as if it's like some offense to them that there are games in which you go and kill Nazis, which should not be an offensive thing. BJ's white skin, blonde hair, turns out to be Jewish, is in spite of the Aryan features. I mean, yeah. It's like we were just talking about with Adolf. Adolf is brown-haired, brown-eyed. He's not even from Germany. He's got nothing going on with the Aryan race, but a lot of these fascist beliefs are live and die on hypocrisy.
And why I'm asking that question.
Also, crazy hair, dude. He was Austrian? Yeah, I know.
So this is 7 years ago, and I was working for Vice News on HBO, and I was doing a segment on a game called Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus. So this is Pete Hines, who was then the senior vice president of marketing for Bethesda, which was the company that was publishing the game. This game was about to come out, and people were threatening to boycott it. You'd think he'd be concerned, but this is what he had to say about it.
People threaten to boycott like everything though now. I don't think Wolfenstein 2 did necessarily poorly. It maybe did poorly against people who, for some reason or another, got offended by it. But like, if you're offended by the game that is about murdering Nazis, you know, maybe. What did Pete Hines say? Fuck those guys. Is this one of those nothing arguments where they say nothing at a lot of the same time? The video as a whole? It might be. That's what I was like trying to figure out, because he doesn't have like a thesis statement. Like the biggest thesis of the thing, what do you call it? The title would be like the thesis. I got like so thrown off my words with that next comment. Hold on. Is that like it's trying to answer the question of, is it anti-white? But it hasn't even come close to saying one way or the other yet. And we're like, well, we're only a minute into the video, but hopefully it clears up soon. I hope it's not 40 minutes of nothing. Otherwise, I'll be really upset. Most people think Hitler hated Jewish people because he tried to be an artist and a Jewish critic told him he sucked. I don't even know if I doubt that's true. I'm pretty sure most of Hitler's anti-Jewish hate comes from the fact that there's been a lot of like anti-Jewish, anti-Semitic sentiment in a lot of different populations for a long time. There's a big, long, complicated history of why. But they are an easy group to point out and attack and make the villain, which is what Hitler did in Mein Kampf and a lot of the early like Nazi, when they were coming up as a political party, was to make Jewish people a scapegoat, which was easy to do back then. You know, as much easy as it is for people, MAGA today, to point at Haitian immigrants or Somali immigrants or Mexican immigrants and go like, see, they're different. They're bad. That's why they didn't like hate the Jews because they like had. They didn't hate the Jews because they had like some specific personal spiteful reason to hate the Jews. They hated the Jews because they were an easy scapegoat and a thing they could throw all of Germany's troubles onto and blame for all of their problems. Stab in the back myth was a product of aftermath World War One. Yeah, stuff like that. People saying that like Jews were going to try and take over Germany and trying to do all this other bullshit, poisoning the blood and soil of our country. The same kind of shit you hear today. It's not because Hitler just had like some personal vendetta. He was like, you know what? I really don't like Jews that much. Like, no, not at all. Germany had the highest amount of radios in the world. I can believe that, yeah. He's just yapping. We'll see. I think this might just be yapping. From a guy who had like that crazy haircut in 2017, perhaps this might just be yapping.
Fuck those guys. Like,
So that's not his full answer, but I think we need more context to understand all this.
So let's go back just a few months to June of 2017, when Pete Hines walked on stage.
Get to the point.
Thank you very much.
I hope he does.
Good evening and welcome to the 2017 Bethesda E3 Showcase.
The presentation went on for about half an hour, but it was the trailer that they played at the end that got everyone's attention. It started off with these fake 60s TV shows that were all weirdly Nazi themed.
No, you're fine. Just like the fact, just coming out the door with the fact that the KKK were started by the Democrats is like some gay-ass propaganda that you're throwing out there right at the gate. Kind of colors, you know, they say first impressions mean a lot. Coming out the gate with propagandic, like, slogans is fucking crazy. Also, I find this odd where he's like, they're like fake 60s TV shows that are oddly like Nazi-ish, and it's like the whole point of the game is that the Nazis took over the world.
Okay.
Bad girl.
And then they finally showed some gameplay.
What a game.
I said a couple of months ago that the thing that Machine Games was working on is fucking bananas, so now you know what I mean by fucking bananas. So if you visit our booth this week at E3, you have a chance to go hands-on and begin the fight to rally the resistance
They won,
of America
yeah.
against the Nazi regime.
Again, this was June of 2017. Then, in August, a group of white supremacists organized a rally called Unite the Right in Charlottesville. Before it happened, not that many people were taking it seriously. But then America woke up and saw that someone had been killed. And they saw the footage.
You know, look at all these weak ass men. Imagine. I will give them the smallest like penny of credit in the fact that they're not hiding their faces behind masks like complete pussies, like like the current Proud Boys who now work at ICE, or like the Proud Boys themselves who just started masking up and covering their faces so they couldn't be identified. At least these motherfuckers were loud and proud with their hatred. I mean, they still probably deserve to get stoned, but like at least they were upfront about it, all in their feelings. So many people called this game woke because you're killing Nazis. Imagine. Hot take. What's the hot take? They all look like they're divorced too.
Donald Trump, who'd only been president for a few months, infamously had this to say.
But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group,
The fact that there were neo-Nazis openly marching around shocked a lot of people. And then, while the headlines were still fresh, just a few weeks after that rally, 2 days before the game's supposed to come out,
Bethesda makes a tweet. And they've included a video.
this was a pretty stark picture.
Hot take, I'd rather people be loud and proud racist than being all shy about it and trying to lie. Yeah. Well, like, them being, like, shy about it is what allows them to have, like, their credibility and how they, like, slowly grow power. That's why, like, exposing them for, like, their beliefs and letting them say it loud and proud tends to... It'll draw people who actually believe in that kind of sentiment towards them, but people that are, like, at risk of being the frog in boiling water that would get, like, drawn into, like, the the dog whistles and then slowly buy into it, those people get turned off immediately because they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? You're a Nazi. Like, what are you talking about? But yeah, I prefer it when they're just out and about because then it tells me, okay, you're the kind of person who needs to go away. Not because, like, because that's the kind of rhetoric and that's the kind of personality that is inherently and truthfully harmful to a free and fair society. No matter how much you care about free speech and whatever, that kind of rhetoric and that kind of practice leads to no good things for anybody. These racist-ass people are the type of people that won't help an old person at the grocery store because they're skin-colored or they're disabled. I think they wouldn't help somebody if they weren't old or if they were of like their same race. They're just bad people. That's where that comes from. They are bad people. They're misanthropes. They are poor and pathetic people who have nothing going on in life. So they like cling to these things that will say like, I'll make you a big, strong man. Shut the fuck up. You're a pussy. You're a wimp ass bitch. It's not about helping old people at the grocery store. It's about being a good, decent person. The fact that you can't even like feel it in your heart to be a decent person, it makes you weak and makes you a bitch. That's fine. But yeah, that I love. We'll go back here a little bit so I can recap my thoughts.
A few weeks after that rally, 2 days before the game's supposed to come out, Bethesda makes a tweet. And they've included a video. This was a
which, like, that's, I don't know what the takeaway from that ad is supposed to be other than, like, hell yeah. What are you talking about? Like, the president goes on the news and says they're fine people on both sides when one side are tiki torch carrying Nazis literally marching through the streets saying Jews will not replace us. In the game that's all about killing Nazis says, hey, turns out Nazis are not fine people. And is using the heat of the moment to, like, promote the game. How is that? The only way for you to, like, come away from this and going, like, oh, that makes me feel weird, is, like, if you saw the Nazis marching at Charlottesville and you're like, those are, like, they have jobs, though. They're contributing. Like, no, shut the fuck up. They're pieces of shit. There's no reason for you to get offended at this unless you know, harbor Nazi sentiment. In which case, I don't give a fuck. Like Pete Hines says, fuck those guys.
pretty stark pivot. The old ads were high budget, well produced, and they had kind of a sense of humor. But these new ads were much more to the point, and you could even say they were confrontational. And they were drawing connections between the fictional Nazi timeline and specific references to real events.
Okay, hold on. This video came out a year ago? When December of last year. Okay. I'll give him the smallest little ounce of credibility in the fact that this is like pre Elon doing his little Roman salute and all the other shit. Although this was also after everything Trump said on the election campaign where he was like, they're poisoning the blood and soil of our country, which is like straight up Nazi dogma rhetoric. But now we straight up have like Kristi Noem on her podium after the Good shooting where she was on the podium. It said, one of ours, all of yours, which is not a direct take from Nazi Germany, but was like very much a, what do you call it? A frame of reference they used. I think it was in Czechoslovakia where an officer was killed and they went through and they took out the entire village that they deemed responsible for it. Like, that's straight up Nazi rhetoric. So, like, for you to say, like, maybe it was a bit harder to sell as like, you know, they're making connections between Nazi Germany and the Trump campaign in 2016, 2017, because it was all buried under dog whistles and like 7 different layers of internet meme lore and 4chan bullshit. But like today, in retrospect, even a year ago, right before Trump like took into office, shut the fuck up, because those branches are very clearly there. And for you to like think that they don't exist, you just have to be a blind fucking moron. You have to be personally and especially obtuse, especially as a journalist, to not like see any remote semblance whatsoever. Come on.
And things that Donald Trump had actually said. A lot of people did not like these ads.
A lot of people who were Nazi sympathizers and still are didn't like what was said. Correction.
Reviewers piled in, saying things like, the game might as well have been made by the terrorist.
Also, I love like these are like, he's like quoting critics who said that this is like a BLM anti-FIFA or Antifa type game, or like the creators have that kind of sentiment. BLM is a popular terrorist group in America, which is fucking insane. But like, he's not telling us where these quotes are coming from. You're a journalist, dude. Cite your fucking sources. What are we talking about? Like, you're going to tell me you're an ex-journalist makes a lot more sense why you won't cite your sources. But, like, come on. How would we summarize this video from what we've watched? So far, he said, people don't like Wolfenstein 2 because Wolfenstein 2 said Nazis are bad. And then, like, giving credibility to the people that are upset at it and refusing not to quote them when they are using their words to defend that position. Can you tell us who did this? Because, like, mainstream game reviewers were not having this opinion about Wolfenstein 2. Where is this opinion coming from? It's not quoted. It's not cited. Come on, ex-journalist. Tell me where this quote exactly came from and who was this upset about it. You know where they got those their sources from? I made it the fuck up. Steven's not here right now. He would have loved that. Show me your source. I made it the fuck up. Although I don't think this is necessarily made up. I think he just took it from somebody who is very clearly like super right wing. And he doesn't want to say that because he probably knows that would make it look as if he is also biased in the sources he's picking for his. Because obviously the right-wing people are going to be upset that Wolfenstein 2 is making fun of right-wing authoritarian movements. Oh, yeah.
Outfit Antifa for all it says about white people. And the people who saw these new ads were wondering, is this about Donald Trump? So I asked the question. Make America Nazi free again.
What anti-white rhetoric are in those ads? The ads are about killing Nazis. Is killing Nazis an inherently anti-white stance to make? You gotta be fucking stupid, dog.
Or not my America. Basically, it sounds like, okay, are we talking about Trump here?
We're talking about Nazis.
Yeah.
You're kind of poking the hornet's nest here.
Maybe a little bit, but the hornet's nest is full of Nazis, so fuck those guys. Like,
Exactly. The same, like the people who are upset when you say like make America Nazi free again are the people who have sympathies with Nazis. Fuck those guys. I don't give a shit what their opinion is. Why should we care? Why should we fucking lay down for these divorced man babies to tell us they're so upset and they're an oppressed minority group now? Shut the fuck up. I do not care. Grow some fucking balls and learn to love one another.
poke a Nazi hornet's nest.
Look,
It's
in
so
a lot of
easy to be
ways,
hateful.
Not much has really changed in the last 7 years because we're still having the same debates, the same arguments, and people still making.
Oh, this is with his modern haircut. He's at a Trump rally. I wonder. I wonder if there's any bias in this. Because he's not a journalist anymore. He's an ex-vice journalist. I don't know if he's anywhere else, but...
A lot of the same comparisons.
He made a statement that I'm like Hitler. It's just couldn't be further from the truth. It's just the opposite, actually.
But look, if you didn't like Wolfenstein, that's fine. This video is not about making fun of you. And as a matter of fact, I think we should be taking some of those criticisms seriously. Because look, a lot of people feel
it was here for
like
work, guys. Don't worry.
It's too harsh on white America.
Wolfenstein is a little weird about white people. I mean,
I'm so ready for these sources. We're 5 minutes in. Give me a source on how it's anti-white, please.
it introduces the Black Panthers as a moral authority. It repeatedly suggests that America is and has always been an inherently racist country.
Which is true. We started the country off with racialized slavery, chattel slavery. How is that not, by definition, a country that has always been inherently racist?
And it paints some Nazis as pretty decent people.
But to understand that, we probably need to back up a little bit.
So I think what he's immediately getting wrong here is the fact that, like, Nazism is it's a coat. It's not like you can't be born a Nazi. You choose to be a Nazi. And that's like the whole point of that character. I don't remember her name, Engel's daughter, where like she wears the coat, but she's not like actually she doesn't like believe in it. She's not like brutal and full of hate like all the other Nazis are. She can stop being a Nazi at any time, and that's exactly what she does. There's a difference between being a Nazi and being white. And if you can't decouple the fact that, like, the idea of not all Nazis are evil people from the Nazis still fucking sucked and deserved everything they had coming for them, you need, like, a little bit of, like, nuance and critical thought in your life. Also notice that, like, the thing that makes that daughter the good person is that she left the Nazis. She didn't, like, stay a part of the Nazis and was like, well, I was a good person. I was just following orders. No, she had to leave the Nazis to be a good person. Because it's a creed that you're a part of that you have to leave or join into that tells you how good of a person you are by virtue of being near it. Yeah. It's got to be an odd place to be. Oh, okay.
So Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus, is, like the number suggests, it's a sequel. And it's set in 1961 in this alternate reality in which the Nazis won World War II and have colonized America. If you've ever seen Man in the High Castle, just imagine that they sent the main dude to the gym for like 5 years. They gave him a laser, and they said, all right, bro, do your thing. But Wolfenstein itself...
This guy sucks at video games, I gotta tell you.
...has a history that goes back to 1981. The series actually got its start on the Apple II with Castle Wolf.
Why are we just now going back in time to talk about Wolfenstein's history that has nothing to do with the bearing about the topic of the video? This is not a series retrospective, and I'm not sure exactly how much the history of the game series is going to play into the modern socio-political lens that you're trying to view it through.
Wolfenstein. So the basic setup of the game is that you're a captured prisoner of war and you've been locked up in Castle Wolfenstein. Your mission is to find the Nazi war plans and escape the castle. But to do that, you need to sneak out of your cell and avoid detection by the guards. From today's perspective, it kind of looks like an elaborate Pac-Man, but instead of ghosts, it's Nazis. A lot of people consider this the first real stealth shooter game. And it makes sense, because there's probably no Metal Gear without Wolfenstein. But the Wolfenstein franchise, as most people know it, didn't start up until over a decade later. 1992, Wolfenstein 3D drops on the PC. It's World War II, you're an American spy, you've been captured by Nazis and thrown into a dungeon. So far, pretty similar to the OG, but in this version, there's no more sneaking around. The stealth part that was a signature feature of the game is gone. In its place is, well, this.
I'm just letting him yap because this is like giving the air of somebody who's like, I'm trying not to be too mean. It's got like the message of like somebody who like thinks he's making like a really high edited, well put together video, but like the editing's not bad, but like the writing here is just not clicking together in a way that is, you could cut a solid 10-20 minutes out of this video already, I can tell.
It was fun, it was bloody, and it was a smash hit. Game historians generally point to Wolfenstein 3D as the birth of the first-person shooter genre. That's not to take away from other games which had tried a 3D first-person perspective before, but id Software's take was different for two big reasons. First, on a technical...
We're literally dancing around the issue on Nazis. Why the fuck should we be afraid to offend the Nazis? Exactly. Like, he hasn't even said why it is like a good... He doesn't have an opinion on anything. He's like, some people were offended by this. Who are some people? Who are the people that were offended by this? Because the only people I can think of that could be offended by the make America Nazi free again, that kind of like shit, are people that are Nazis. And people who like jump and leap over to defend Nazis. You've said nothing. In 8 minutes.
level, it was incredible. Texture mapping, digitized sound effects,
cool
AI that responds.
The history of Wolfenstein as a video game has nothing to do with the with why Wolfenstein 2 might hate white people. I'll just say that off the bat.
Responded to your movements in pseudo 3D space, all running at 60 frames per second. This game was unbelievable technologically. But id Software's true stroke of genius was in understanding how to make animated violence palatable. Pretty early on in video game history, violence was a touchy subject. The most infamous early example is Death Race from 1976. This is an arcade game where you drove a car around and crashed into enemies who would let out this digital scream when you ran them over. Parents were already...
How far we've come. From the satanic panic in the 70s. What the fuck does this have to do with whiteism in Wolfenstein 2? We're now going down like the 1970s, 1990s video game violence rabbit hole, which has been talked about hundreds of times.
Creeped out enough that their kids were hanging out in these smoky, dark rooms with flashing lights. But now they were committing virtual vehicular manslaughter, complete with death groans. This was about 5 steps too far. And it's hard to overstate how completely wild this game was because, again, this was 1976. Gerald Ford was still in office. People had Pong machines at their house still. People were really, really mad about this game.
It's not a Volkswagen. It's not a Christmas tree. Right? It's a human being. Is it harmful? To the extent that it again sanctions practice, training, learning how to hurt, kill other people.
What is like the Jack Thompson era anti-video game satanic panic propaganda have to do with whiteism in Wolfenstein 2 in 2017? What the fuck are we... What is this tangent?
Sets the stage for when people are instigated to aggression to use those skills that they have.
The developers tried to explain that these were gremlins or monsters and you weren't running over humans, but the public didn't buy it. And before long, the game basically disappeared from arcades. Now fast forward a couple decades and we've got, for the time, an immersive 3D experience. It's not just cars, it's guns. And the graphics and the screams are much more realistic. And let's put this into context, because again, this was 1992.
Was it big for the time? Sure. I don't give a shit, though. What does this have to do with whites?
The very next year, there would be congressional hearings about violence in video games.
What you're about to see are scenes from two of the most violent new video games. First, we have Mortal Kombat.
Hell yeah.
Splatters from the contestants' heads. When a player wins, the so-called death sequence begins. The game narrator instructs...
They even criticized Lethal Enforcers, which on paper seems like it would be an okay game because you're a cop that's fighting crime, but they really didn't like the guns.
Why wouldn't Wolfenstein be an okay game? You're gunning down Nazis. Why are you making that excuse for this game and not Wolfenstein?
Making a game and selling it that encourages a kid to point a gun at a television set. I mean, we're all aware of this incredible outbreak.
Well, that's what we're supposed to get to the bottom
of in our
of.
country. Is it responsible? Let me put it another way.
But Wolfenstein, which had guns and blood, managed to avoid getting criticized in those hearings. They didn't even get a name drop. And it kind of makes sense, because what? Are you going to complain about killing Nazis? They're Nazis.
Okay.
Basically,
okay, he did say it. Credit where it's due.
not people. They're monsters, right?
Yes. Yes. What do you mean, right? Like as if it's an open question. They murdered millions of people systematically. The answer is without question, yes. Nazis are horrible people, and trying to revive the Nazi regime in the modern era should be dealt with extreme prejudice. You should not be allowed to be like, yeah, I think the Nazis were cool. No, fuck you. They killed millions of people and ruined so many countless lives with their bullshit and rhetoric that was built on nothing but a pure need and desire for power and building a scapegoat out of their minority communities that they were neighboring. What is that question? Are the Nazis all actually bad? Yes! What are you talking about? Yes! Unquestionably, yes.
And that's where this new reboot becomes a problem. Because in this iteration of Wolfenstein, the Nazis are very much people. And if you play the game as the creators intended it, you run a pretty high risk of accidentally agreeing with the Nazi.
Wie können Sie Gewalt gegen uns gutheißen, nur weil wir anderer Ansicht sind? Die sind halt gewalttätig, Karl. Denen fehlt die Moral.
So, the humanization of the Nazis in Wolfenstein is them saying ironic things, like how could they call us terrorists for having a different point of view when they are... In the first game, Frau Engel grabs a literal infant by the ankle and bashes its skull in. These are inherently abhorrent people. These are evil people. Just because they are saying things that are ironic doesn't make them any less evil or abhorrent. What? That's not the point of the what do you would call it? Humanization of the Nazis. It's not to make you think that they are humans. The point is that their worldview is so inherently hypocritical and built on bullshit that it's funny, you know?
Moralische Richtschnur. Wir sind doch auch Menschen. Gewalt führt nur zu noch mehr Gewalt.
Das stimmt, Karl. Gewalt ist niemals in Ordnung. Niemals.
Was für eine Gesellschaft wäre das, wenn ich jeden töten würde, der meine Ansicht nicht teilt?
Do you not see the latent irony in that sentence? What kind of society would this be if we were allowed to kill anyone who does not subscribe to my viewpoint? That's what the Nazis did! That's the satire! You might be retarded. That's the point of it. You're not supposed to look at that and be like, oh, you know, maybe the Nazis are decent people. It's like that clip of that guy on TikTok who listened to like a AI translated version of Hitler's speeches, and he's like, you know, he's talking about all the same stuff we care about our schools and our children and our future. Maybe Hitler wasn't a bad guy. And it's like, no. The takeaway is not that Hitler wasn't a bad guy. It's the fact that they used the same rhetoric and the populism to enrich themselves and give themselves more power to carry out their own evil goals. Oh, man. Oh, I muted it. Hold on.
Übrigens, hast du dich für New Orleans beworben?
Na klar. Und du?
Auf jeden Fall.
Vielleicht sind wir in einer Todesschwadron.
Hoffentlich. Wir arbeiten doch.
He says maybe we'll be in the same death squad. Can you not read like the latent irony of the NPCs talking about violence is never good? Maybe we'll be in the same death squad. Come on. It's so on the nose.
Well, the political division in the country undeniably deep right now.
Navigating a divisive political climate on a range.
Republicans attack Democrats, and Democrats return fire. Social media is a showcase of our anger. An analysis by the New York Times this fall found that online use of the phrase civil war has exploded.
If you were to remove that from its context, that conversation sounds completely reasonable. Violence is wrong, and political disagreements should be handled in a civil manner. And in 2017,
they're Nazi.
This was a very serious conversation because people were arguing over whether or not it's okay to punch a Nazi.
Yeah. Because there's a level of like, there's a difference between political disagreements where it's like a civil disagreement is like, do we spend our tax money on roads or schools? And it's like, you know what? We can argue about it. We can argue about which one's better, which one has longer lasting effectiveness, whatever, bullshit, whatever like that. And there's a difference between that and going, should we have free healthcare or murder all the Jews? No! What the fuck are you talking about? That's not a thing to have civil discourse over. That's not that's not something that you're like, oh yeah, you know what? We should talk this out. No! Fuck you! What do you mean?
Because, well, somebody punched a Nazi.
It's Pepe's become kind of a symbol.
Which, of course, Wolfenstein couldn't resist making a parody of for another advertisement. Maybe you're seeing a pattern here.
But this conversation takes place between two Nazi stormtroopers. So you're crawling up a staircase, fingers on the R2 trigger, and you're thinking, I think my mom might have posted something like this on Facebook last week. Do those Nazis have a point?
If that's your takeaway from that conversation of the Nazis talking about they hope they're on the same death squad while trying to condemn the violence and you don't understand the latent irony in that worldview, you should learn how to breathe water immediately. Like, find the nearest source of aqua you can, if it's a pool, if it's a river, if it's the rain coming down, and just try to breathe it. Because what are you talking about?
Am I supposed to shoot these guys? In fact, aside from a handful of almost cartoonishly sadistic characters, a lot of the Nazis in this reboot seem pretty reasonable. And some of them are deliberately depicted as sympathetic characters. So there's this part where you're hunting down some Nazis who've been hiding from you for months. They're not trying to attack you. They don't want to attack you. They're trapped in the lower part of your submarine, and they just want to escape.
They're trapped in the lower part of your submarine. So what's the context of them showing up on our submarine? What do you think the context is, guys? Do you think they just happened to be there?
Overhear one of them trembling in fear at the thought of having to confront the terrorist. By the way, that's you. They call you a terrorist.
Terrorist is a meaningless political label. It just means somebody who's committing political violence, but they're not on our side. If they're a terrorist, but they happen to be on our side, they're freedom fighters. That's how that works.
You also hear his older brother consoling him and saying he'll protect him.
Sobald das U-Boot auftaucht, sind wir in Sicherheit. Brüderchen. Und jetzt sei tapfer und mach dir keine Sorgen.
In order.
So, like, the game is reminding you that, like, not only were the Nazis evil and abhorrent, but, like, the Nazis were real life people who were evil and abhorrent. People who you might even find sympathies for, but they still found a way to get up every day and to work for this evil regime. I don't think the intention is to make you fall in love with Nazis or to see like Nazis from a sympathetic lens. I think the point of it is to show you that, like, Nazis were not, what's the quote? I saw it a few days ago. Somebody reposted it. That the Nazis were not Adolf and Himmler. They were not the ones going to door to door. The Nazis were like your cobbler, your butcher, your bread maker, your baker, who like donned the uniform and went and they turned in their neighbors and they fought their own neighbors and murdered their own neighbors. That's who the Nazis were. That's what these kind of fascist movements rely on, is people like turning over their own communities for the sake of some evil bullshit. Just because they happen to have siblings doesn't make them any less evil or abhorrent. Smallest amount of critical thinking ever. You're a journalist. Read a book.
To progress in the game, you have to kill both of them.
Oh no, the Nazis have brothers. What do you think about the millions of people they murdered systematically? Do you think those people had lives and families also?
You also read postcards from sons writing to their mothers back home. The Nazis in this game are people. These are people who have friends, families, emotions.
And people do bad things. That's, yeah.
Fears, hopes, dreams, just like you.
See, but the difference is I'm not putting on a trench coat and a gas mask and going door to door, eliminating people for the color of their skin or the beliefs that they hold. That's the difference. Yeah, like, yes, they have families, they have brothers, they have sisters, they have mothers and hopes and dreams. They're also putting on the armor of a stormtrooper and hunting down children. Shut up.
At one point, you even have to confront the family of someone you killed.
This all probably seems like a really bad idea because, once again, we're talking about Nazis here. This is a group that we consider to be universally evil. And so wouldn't humanizing them be immoral at best and dangerous at worst?
If you're a lame moron and you don't know how to think about things for more than 2 seconds and you are that easy to convince, otherwise, maybe, yeah, sure. It's dangerous if you're retarded.
I mean, these are monsters, right?
Yes, we see them murder so many people in the games. The first game begins like when you're in the asylum with the Nazis going through and just executing all of the the patients in the facility. Hold on, I think my buddy's here to drop that thing off. I'll be right back. We're going to take a small break before I get too angry. Okay, we're good. We're back. We're not even halfway through the video, are we not? Oh, fuck, we're not even close. I like how he hasn't even started discussing and defining what anti-white means in this context. Yeah. So far, when he's talked about the game being anti-white, he's talking about the game making fun of Nazis, which, as far as I'm concerned, is not anti-white behavior. If you're a white person, you should also hate Nazis. That's not a very hot take. So I wonder if he's just going to say that for another 30 minutes.
Ja, Bruder!
That would be a fair criticism, but it wouldn't be the first time it's happened. We could go back to 1963 to the political theorist Hannah Arendt when she was dealing with precisely this same problem. She had just published a study of Adolf Eichmann, who was a Nazi leader who, among other things, organized the sending of Jews to the extermination camps. Arendt went to some of the trial, and she described it in articles she wrote for The New Yorker, where she concluded that Eichmann was not a monster, but instead a, quote, terrifyingly normal person. This is not really what people expected from someone who was herself a Jew and had to flee Germany as the Nazis rose to power. And a lot of people attacked her for humanizing a man who committed unimaginable crimes against humanity and for trivializing the horrors of genocide. But Hannah Arendt countered that her point was never to trivialize anything. She wanted to argue that, quote, under conditions of terror, most people would comply, that some people would fight, but most wouldn't, and that a fascist government would dehumanize people and turn them into, as she said, functionaries and mere cogs in the administrative machinery. She had a phrase for this: the banality of evil.
Yes. This is what I was just talking about, that quote right before the break, where it was like the evil of the Nazis was not like Adolf and Himmler. It was the regular people you knew on your street who would turn you in.
Hannah Arendt's work is still controversial to this day, which we're not going to get into. But I think that the concept of the banality of evil is helpful to put into context for what I think Tommy Bjork, who was the narrative designer for the Wolfenstein series, was aiming for. So I don't have the footage for this conversation. I think we might have cut it out of our video interview, but this is how I quoted him in an article that I wrote for Vice back then. He said that, I think all societies are susceptible to those kinds of ideologies, those kinds of fascist ideologies, if they don't fight them.
Which we've seen. That's why people are currently in the streets trying to get rid of or expel ICE from their streets, because they are very, 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 very close to recreating some of the early fascist tendencies we saw in places like Germany.
He also said, I think that's something you get to see in the game. There's a whole spectrum of reactions within American citizens toward this takeover. Some of them welcome it. To be really abundantly clear here, Tommy Bjork's point was not to suggest that the Nazis had a point, because he and I both agree that they did not have a point.
Okay, finally, 18 minutes into the video, guy says Nazis are bad. Maybe I should have expected that from the the get-go. That should be the base level opinion on Nazis, but we live in such an age where this guy spent the first 18 minutes of the video saying, are Nazis really bad? And 18 minutes in says, no, actually Nazis didn't have a point. They kind of suck. It's like, dude, yes. Now we're caught up with reality.
It sounds kind of personal for you.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I fucking hate Nazis. Can you say that?
You can say that.
So,
I think what he's getting at here in this interview is maybe better summarized in some of his work in this scene.
Monsters did this. Not monsters. Men.
Let's
Yes. That is the point. Regular people can just be evil. They're not faceless monsters. They are people. If you're going to spend another half an hour going through the most basic steps to spell that out, maybe it's just the fact that we are so illiterate as a country, that so many people are so stupid that people need the 40 minutes of extra context to get to this point. But like, if that's what the entire point of this video is, it could have been 10 minutes. You could have just played Wolfenstein 2 and gotten that from the game itself.
Talk about America.
This is like kind of reminding me of the guy who did the Gears of War breakdown. He was like, did you know Marcus Phoenix's last name is a reference to the Greek phoenix, which dies and be's reborn?
America a little bit. One of the most striking pre-release advertisements for this game is this scene right here.
A big fan of DK for Ain't Jeff. The music makes me happy. What's wrong with that, Wayne? Nothing wrong with that, Jeff.
I like your style, Americans. Very good.
It shows a Nazi soldier having what looks like a pretty friendly conversation with two hooded Klansmen. And it kind of makes sense, right? It's two evil groups getting along together. Someone even posted it on YouTube, and it's got some pretty funny comments. But if you actually play the game, the part after this is not funny. There's a lot of really unsettling stuff that they don't show you in the ad. And to see that, you have to actually explore the town. So this is where we get to see what a normal or banal day looks like in America. If you hang out long enough, you'll eventually hear someone complaining about their slaves acting up because apparently the Nazis let them have their slaves back. And then there's this woman who thanks the Nazis for ridding the country of certain elements of American culture.
I just couldn't stand all that primitive jungle music they used to play. Jazz and rock and roll. Quite verschrecklich, like you would say, right?
Yes, good, Fräulein Edler.
The most vile and disgusting characters in this scene are not German, they're Americans. In fact, there's times when even the Nazis seem a little bit confused about the mechanics of white American racism. Earlier on in the game, the daughter of a Nazi general runs away and joins your team. And when you first bring her onto your ship, she notices that there's a black man in the control room. And she freaks out because she doesn't understand.
Radio contact with an American resistance group in New York City. Now, we need to
Do you
find
allow blacks on board?
to our cause. We need to make even
Oh my God! How did that man get in here? No, everyone is allowed on this boat, except Nazis.
A bona fide war again.
Now, I want to spend some time here because why she says that, why she reacts this way, the story leaves it kind of ambiguous. And I think there's a couple possibilities here. Maybe the most obvious one, or the first obvious one, would be, okay, well, she's a Nazi, so she's racist, and so she would hate black people, right? That makes sense. But it doesn't really seem to work.
It's not that ambiguous at all.
Work out because later that same black dude, she has sex with him.
I'm sorry. Did you need this boat?
Yes, motherfucker.
So there might be another explanation here. Maybe she's just confused because she speaks English and she's studied America. She understands American culture and American racism. And you've got a bunch of Americans on board. So why aren't you all racist like most Americans? All right, let's back up a little bit. So the same year that Wolfenstein 2, the new Colossus, was released.
I feel like this is the first time we've watched a video where my intelligence is being insulted. Because I feel like this guy is not... He's obviously not, like, pro-Nazi or anything. Like, we've seen, unfortunately, some people who've made videos are. Obviously, that's not the case. But, like, I feel like I'm being talked down to by somebody who is not explaining these topics in a way that is... It's like explaining to someone that Nazis are bad, but going like the long way around about it, right?
Another piece of Nazi history related media also came out. But this wasn't a fictional alternate history. This is actual, real history. And this book, Hitler's American Model by James Whitman, explains that a lot of Nazi policy came from the United States. The author explains that in the early 1930s,
Get to the point.
the Nazis were not planning on extermination. They thought the solution to their Jewish problem was either forcing them out of the country or at least taking away their rights and isolating them. But they had no idea how to write policy to achieve this goal. They needed a blueprint. And they found their biggest inspiration in America. Nazi legal scholars were extremely impressed by American racism. They thought it was amazing that even though we had things like the 14th and 15th Amendments, making sure that former slaves were A, citizens, and B, had the right to vote, that we'd still figured out these clever workarounds to make it actually almost impossible for black people to enjoy those rights in practice. We had somehow managed to create a new second class of citizens. And what we'd done with immigrants was even more impressive. Hitler himself admired how America, quote, simply excludes the immigration of certain races, and he was equally impressed at our genocide of Native Americans to make room, or Lebensraum, for white settlers. And as the author says, indeed in Mein Kampf, Hitler praised America as nothing less than the one state that had made progress toward the creation of a healthy racist order. The Nazis considered America to be the most forward-thinking country on the planet in terms of racist policy. For the Nazis, American creativity wasn't just about writing pop music or Hollywood movie scripts. It was in writing imaginative laws to deny certain races access to actual American citizenship. And the most impressive thing to them was that our discrimination was all done by the book. Everything was legal because we made it legal. So the Nazis tried to catch up to America and started adapting our laws. But they didn't just copy-paste our policies into the Nazi law books because, as the author says, the Nazis treated American race law as too harsh to be borrowed wholesale by Nazi Germany.
It is slow. He's kind of repeating the points that we went over in the first 5 minutes. But also, I think the important thing about that quote about it being too harsh is not that they thought that America was too mean overall and that they were going to be nicer towards Jewish people or towards, people of color or homosexuals or whatever minority group you're talking about is. The point is that you can't go from no crimes to all the crime. You have to put the frog in cold water first and then boil it slowly. You can't just be like, okay, yeah, now, tomorrow, Jewish people are second-class citizens. It doesn't work like that. You have to slowly build up to it. So when they say it's too harsh for German citizens specifically, they're not saying that Germany wouldn't be able to or would not be capable of that. It's that Germany as a whole would not be able to adopt that kind of hardcore Nazi rhetoric overnight. It's the same kind of stuff you see here, where people have been calling Trump Hitler forever. J.D. Vance called him Hitler in 2017, 2016, whatever. And it's not necessarily inaccurate, but people who go, well, they're not literally Nazis marching through the streets. But it's yeah, because you don't go from democracy, America, bald eagle, hot dogs to Nazi Germany overnight. You get through there slowly, through small indents in policy, through small rights being kind of stripped away slowly, through Gestapo marching through the street. You get there slowly and assuredly. You don't just go right from we love everybody, we're a melting pot, to let's murder all the Jews. It's not an overnight flip the switch kind of thing, and that's kind of what that main quote is about.
Let me say that again. The Nazis thought our laws, especially...
So this is just an inherent misunderstanding of it. It's not that they're saying America is too harsh on minorities, and they're not. They don't think that Germany as a populace would be willing to buy into how harsh those laws were without being properly desensitized to it beforehand.
Things like our Jim Crow laws, they thought
America had, since its inception, 200-something years of slavery and bullshit. That's a horrible frame to pause on. to to build up to these places first, where it was okay to treat black people as second-class citizens versus just it being completely free and desegregated and then going full slavery the next summer. It's not how it worked.
They were too harsh, and that they needed to be toned down to work in Nazi Germany. As the author explains, in the 1930s, the Nazis thought of their program as a, quote, more thoroughgoing and rigorous realization of American approaches toward minorities, even if the regime had shifted its sights to a new target in the form of the Jews. And it wasn't just Nazis taking notes from Americans, because Americans were also taking notes from the Nazis. Just months before World War II broke out,
this is all interesting history, and it plays into a lot of like what we see a lot nowadays. What does this have to do with Wolfenstein 2 being anti-white? I feel like he's using Wolfenstein 2 as like a springboard to talk about more serious topics, but it's all put together in a very, very awkward, and this is like a first draft script. This could use some revitalization.
1,000 Nazi sympathizers gathered at Madison Square Garden for a rally. And this wasn't the only group. In another book, Hitler's American Friends, the Third Reich Supporters in the United States, Bradley W. Hart explains that there were a bunch of groups that were big Hitler fans. These ranged from political groups to Christian preachers. A lot of people thought that Nazi-style fascism should be brought to America. The America First Committee was even trying to get a fascist-friendly candidate to be elected president.
America First, you say?
The guy they thought would be best for the job was Charles Lindbergh, who was the first man to fly across the Atlantic Ocean. Lindbergh never actually said he wanted to run, but he was pretty racist, and he was a celebrity. So the smart racists thought he might be useful. Fortunately, most of these groups were very badly organized, and they usually fell apart because of mismanagement or infighting. All of this is to say that not only did the Nazis find us very interesting and sometimes useful, there were a lot of Americans who were also pretty fond of what the Nazis were doing too.
Yeah, this is very much get to the point. This is interesting history stuff, and if you were like billing this as like writing around Wolfenstein to get to like the actual history would be more interesting as like a history piece. This has nothing to do with Wolfenstein and whiteism and why it feels weird. But he seems to really, really like going back to the fact, like, I think he's chosen Wolfenstein just because he did a Vice article for them. If he had not done that Vice article, he would not have chosen Wolfenstein as a topic of discussion at all.
Few things had gone differently. The world of Wolfenstein could have been real, aside from the lasers and space colonies and stuff.
Yeah, don't you just love parades? They make you feel so safe.
Look, I'm not trying to hate on every American ever, because obviously there were Americans who were not convinced by this fascist rhetoric. And we see those people in the game. But it's interesting. So early on in the story, your character meets a woman named Grace Walker.
Just who the fuck are you, white boy?
Stay calm. Let me first make it absolutely clear that I am not a Nazi.
Now you bring Super Special back in and you put him down right now, or I will shove this grenade so far up your ass, I'll be dancing and rejoicing as your entrails trickle down from the ceiling. You dig, man?
She's the leader of a resistance group called the Black Liberation Front, which seems to be a pretty clear reference to the Black Liberation Army, which was an actual real organization partially comprised of former Black Panthers. They even have buttons that say Free Huey, which is the campaign to free Huey Newton, who's another Black Panther, and again, this is a connection to real life. Once Grace Walker enters the picture, she immediately takes charge of operations. From this point on, she's the boss. But if you've played the previous game in this reboot series, you'll probably realize that her function as a character is, well, not much of a character. She's really there more to serve as a vehicle for a particular message. Specifically, she's kind of like an expanded version of this other character in the previous game named Jay, who is an obvious Jimi Hendrix reference, who's mostly there to explain Black people's take on Nazis.
Throw me in the gas chamber just like they did all the others.
None of that has anything to do with me.
That's not the America I fought for.
Kind of. I'd like to see some more concrete examples on how she doesn't serve as a character, because she has a much bigger role in the story than Jay did. Like, Jimmy in Wolfenstein 1 was literally, you could have the story without him, because if you chose, I think if you go Fergus's route, you get the other woman, who's like a Polish woman, and you see her view of the story instead of Jimi Hendrix. Not only is he like showing us Black America's view on Nazis, but he's also kind of just like, he shows that kind of anarchist view of everything, where he like literally does not care, and he goes out playing the Star Spangled Banner on his electric guitar as he's getting gunned down. She has a much bigger role, a much more informed role. Maybe she's a little bit cringy, I guess you could say. I know a lot of people have an issue with, I forget her name, the actor who plays Grace. She's in like the Star Wars games and everything. That like she gets photo scanned into every single game. I do think it's kind of funny that she's like the one actor I can think of that gets imported into so many video games. But that's like a separate thing aside from the character. I would like to see an example of how she's not a character and just a talking head.
Really? I was little. My mother wanted to take me to the picture show, but we had to go in through the fucking colored entrance. I wanted a hot dog and a lemonade, but the sign says we don't serve Negroes in this establishment. You're a patriot. Blue-eyed, jarhead, motherfucking Nazi-killing patriot that you are. You're still a fucking puppet to the man. You're exactly the kind of guy they ordered in come lynching time. You don't get it, do you? Before all this, before the Germans, before the war, back home, man, you were the Nazis.
Be careful what you call me.
Violence. Language of the man. Can't you see? We're all just brothers and sisters now, aren't we?
He's speaking truth. Yeah. Basically show that there is oppression, even aside from like the brutal fascistic oppression we see in the Nazis, even when it's homegrown and it's as simple as like a colored bathroom. That is still oppression, and that is still violence, you know?
Examples of a kind of trope that functions within this game, that the people with the best grasp on reality and the people who truly understand America in the Wolfenstein universe are black. White people, there are exceptions, but white people are generally either clueless or they're complicit with the Nazis. And finally, here is maybe where...
That's called privileged. Not clueless, privileged. They're just not exposed to it. That's where you have a guy like BJ, who once he becomes exposed to it, is like, oh yeah. And he's completely on board with it.
we can address some of those complaints from people who gave.
Wow, we're taking tweets from 50 Shades of Pomo. What a serious tweet to take seriously.
This game bad reviews. This game.
He even blurred out one of the names that he took a tweet from. That's not honest journalism.
Is not saying that all white people are bad, obviously, because the main character, the guy you control, Billy Blazkowicz, is white, and he's a good guy. What it is saying is that for white people, it's possible to be unaware of what's going on, and that is not a luxury that most black people would have. I mean, let's go back to how we first meet Grace.
Yeah.
One of her first functions is to point out the inherent racism that America had even before the Nazis arrived, and tells your character that not all white Americans even want to be free of the Nazis.
Right, Grace. Put the fighting spirit back in the American people. Ignite a revolution.
Shit. We've been fighting every motherfucking day, Blazkowicz. White America, though? They done packed up and given in. See, I guess they don't have the fighting spirit no more. Nah, they just do whatever the fucking Fuhrer tells them to do.
That's baloney. They want to fight the Nazis just as much as we do. All they need is for someone to show them how.
You know who's running the South after the Nazis took over? The Ku Klux motherfucking Klan, am I right? That's it. So what you gonna do? You gonna go down there and hold hands with them and build bridges and persuade them to join our cause? Get your head out your ass, Blazkowicz.
And now I think we're starting to get a little closer to what some of those angry commenters, those angry reviewers were mad about. Because some of them probably felt a little bit attacked. But hold on. I don't think it's fair to say that everyone who was angry about this game was a literal Nazi sympathizers. I think a lot of people who were angry at the game, at least the way they say it, is that...
Give me an example of somebody who was attacked by this game that isn't a Nazi sympathizer. What do you mean? That's the only people I've seen who felt attacked by this game, especially in the retrospect of the beginning of 2025. What are you talking about?
They're not angry about the politics of the game. They're angry that the game has politics at all.
Go fuck yourself. It's a game about Nazis in America. By definition, it's going to have some politics in it.
Political themes don't belong in a game. Games are fun, and this is just a game. Okay. I think what's behind that kind of thought is the recognition that a game can be more personal than other mediums.
Yeah. Also, I think he might fail to recognize the only people I've ever seen that say, I don't want politics in my blank, whether it's Warhammer or video games or movies or whatever, are normally people who are having their politics being made fun of because their politics fucking suck. And their politics are just a little bit aligned to to maybe fascism, maybe Nazis. Maybe a little bit. Hey, I think it says a lot more about somebody who says they don't want politics in my blank than something to be political, right? Like, it's the people who say that, like, Fallout is ruined now because Lucy is there and she doesn't have big tits or whatever in the Fallout TV show. And it's like, why did they go and make Fallout political? And it's like, dude, this shit was political from the very first game. You're a poser, you're a tourist, you're a piece of shit, and you're a coward. Shut the fuck up.
Look, in a book or a film, there's a sense of distance between the thing that you're experiencing and you. But games are different because you're actually controlling the character. Things don't happen to somebody on the screen, they happen to you. So when someone tells your character that America is racist, they're not talking to that character, they're talking to you.
Well,
and if you're American,
maybe if it was like a silent protagonist type thing, I think that effect he's describing works mostly in a game with a silent protagonist or like an RPG where you make your own protagonist, like in Fallout, with a character like BJ who's very outspoken and you spend most of the game inside his head with him telling you about his upbringing and his life and stuff. I feel like that's a lot different.
And especially if you're also white, that might make it feel a little bit more personal than you're prepared for. But let's pause for a second, because maybe this game isn't so scary if you're white. I think there's a couple ways of looking at this game. Because on the one hand, there's kind of a white savior thing happening here. So again, you're playing as BJ Blazkowicz, and you find out in the beginning of the game that his mother's Jewish. But that's not really brought up much after that. When people call him white, BJ doesn't correct him, and even the Nazis refer to him as white.
Fireman, I recognize your face. Very Aryan face it is too. Are you out of Station 1?
His father's white, and his father is an absolute villain to the point of being basically a caricature. In the first scene of the game, we see his father strangle a child, hit his wife, hit a dog, spout anti-Jewish tropes, say the N-word twice in the...
It may be a little bit caricature-ish, but these are definitely people that do exist. What are you talking about? The concept of a evil, hateful, racist man also being abusive? Is that far out of realm for you?
Space of like 45 seconds. Right after that, he says something homophobic, and there aren't even any gay people in this scene. And then he makes you kill your own puppy. He's so hateful, it's almost not believable.
Shoot her.
And so, spoiler alert, but this shouldn't really be a spoiler. When we see BJ's father become a Nazi sympathizer later on in the game, we can say, okay, yeah, figures. He was a bad guy back then, and of course he would side with the bad guys. I would never do that. And this is why I think we could call BJ a white savior, because this pattern follows that trope perfectly. So the white savior trope works because film directors know that we can't pretend racism doesn't exist because we know it exists. We've read about it at school. But if you show racism on screen, you risk white people getting their feelings hurt, and they might not want to watch your movies anymore. That's bad. So there's a strategy. You give the viewer 2 white people. You give them one really bad racist one, and that's the foil, and the other person, you give them a good, not racist white person. And you kind of hint to the viewer that, okay, obviously you wouldn't be that one. You'd be this nice second guy.
So you're saying that To Kill a Mockingbird is like the origin of the white savior complex? To me, in the way I've always heard it described, and whoa. Okay, my monitor shut off there for a second. I don't know why. But to me, the way I've always heard it described and stuff by specific black creators and different voices and stuff is that like white savior, it's kind of like white knighting for women, but like obviously on the terms of race, like somebody who like inserts themselves as like a savior, but they like don't actually have the knowledge, understanding, or the impetus of their own place in that society where they want to feel like they're morally superior or better than everything because they are against these things without understanding their place in it for real, and not just having a white guy who is anti-racist. Having a white guy who's anti-racist is not the same as having like a white savior complex. The black character never having their own agency. Yeah, it's like the mansplaining type shit where it's like, never fear, black guy, for I know exactly how bad racism is, and I'm on your side completely 100% without ever like giving them their own agency. Like that's a lot worse than just having like a white guy who's anti-racist. Like to me, that's not necessarily what white saviorism is. Also, he's using like BJ fighting his dad as like the specific example, but BJ spends the entire game killing racist white people, Nazis. So I don't think that necessarily the one scene alone is an example of it. Maybe I'm doing it right now. I don't know. Outside of the fact that his dad is like so much more racist, or we spend so much time with him that he seems so much more racist than all the other characters we've seen to this point.
All men are created equal.
And you could argue that that's what BJ is for. See, controlling BJ doesn't just feel good because you have big guns and heavy armor and big muscles. When you play as BJ, you get to feel not only physically superior, but morally superior. Warm in here. Reading history, and especially looking... Okay, it's not that you get to feel morally superior, you are morally superior. Even if BJ wasn't a white dude. You're murdering Nazis. There is no context in which you are murdering the Nazi party, and you are not morally superior. Unless you are like an uber Nazi and you're murdering Nazis because you don't think they're Nazi enough, right? Like if you're the Nick Fuentes of Nazis, I guess. But what? You're not like feeling morally superior. You're shooting Nazis. That makes you morally superior inherently. Looking at pictures from history is really uncomfortable when you see someone who looks like you in those pictures. We all like to think that if we lived back in some historical period, that we would have been on the right side of history. Maybe we wouldn't be this guy, but we could definitely be this guy, right? But that's not probable. You might not have been this person or this person, but statistically speaking, most of the people watching this, you would have been this guy or her or him. If the world of Wolfenstein 2 were real, you, watching this video, if you were given the opportunity, you probably would have joined the Nazi party. I'm not making a value judgment on you. I'm sure you're a great person. I'm just speaking statistically. Most people.
We've gotten through half an hour of this video, for him to just say Wolfenstein 2 feels weird because Nazism and historically America are very close together, which is true. And maybe some people need to hear that, but I feel like this was a very, very dumb way and very, very like both sidings it type of way of getting that point across. Just say Nazis fucking suck and that America has history. If people cannot swallow that pill because they are so obtuse and so like self-defensive, fuck them. They they suck. It's not my fault. Some people whatever. I'm speaking from a place of like privilege again, right? Where I have like this specific history of myself, of things I've learned and I've come across that have like led me to where I am. And it's not inherently a bad thing that like people are like figuring that out. Even if it's in like a place that is kind of like weird like this, but like this is such a bad way of getting that point across. At least I feel.
Will simply comply.
That's nice, dear. Give my regards to your father when you return to the farm. Oh, and tell him I'm putting some hardworking slaves up for auction this week if he's interested. There'll be cocktails.
I'll tell him, Auntie. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye, dear.
This is what Hannah Arendt was talking about. Playing as BJ allows you to escape that reality a little bit. But then, on the other hand, BJ is a little bit more complicated than that, if you know where to look. BJ is not exactly a perfect white savior. He might be the guy who's most physically ready for the job, but he's not a leader. He's a soldier. He has a good moral compass, but we see him over and over again having to have somebody else, usually somebody black, have to explain to him that, look, man, America's actually a pretty terrible place, and it has been for a really long time. BJ doesn't like hearing this, but it keeps being proven to him.
You come with me. Kind of on the spot, you know. Pretty well cornered by the man, actually.
I love his character so much.
Somebody will lay it out for him. They'll explain reality. They'll explain the reality of American racism to him. And in the moment, he'll nod, and it seems like he gets it. And then in the very next scene, he's getting offended that somebody else is explaining to him that they see America differently for him. He's kind of ignorant for the entire game. And it makes you wonder why BJ is even on our side. And honestly, if BJ didn't have very serious daddy issues, he might not be. BJ joined the army not to save the world or out of any real sense of justice, but as far as we can see, he joined to escape his abusive father.
Ain't nothing you can offer to make up for what you done to us. I think of my father, I see a fuck you and a fist flying in my face.
When'd you ever do right by me?
If his dad hadn't been such a cartoon villain jerk, BJ might have just ended up as some middle manager working a desk job for the Third Reich. So which is the correct way to look at Wolfenstein? Is BJ a white savior character that lets white people off the hook too much? Or
I mean, I think it's fair. That's kind of like the whole point of the game, is that like people are who they are by their environment. But that doesn't mean that like the Nazis are any less evil, you know? Saying that he wouldn't have changed. I think the game makes it. He's Jewish and Polish. Yeah, but he's also like the, what do you call it? Like the prime Aryan man. Perhaps, yeah.
is he a parody of the white savior stereotype? Maybe a little bit of column A, maybe a little bit of column B, or maybe it's something else.
I swear to God, if you say it's something, it's something ambiguous, and you like can't put forth an opinion one more time,
A little earlier, we talked about those two books that explain the actual history of American and Nazi interaction and influence.
Mm-hmm.
But again, this is a game, which does something that neither of those books do, and does something that maybe no book can ever do. When those books describe Nazi policies, they use words like sinister, or evil, or unimaginably horrifying to make sure that we know that the authors think that the Nazis are bad. And look, I understand why they do this, and don't get me wrong, Wolfenstein the game kind of does it too. It makes it very clear that
It is beyond clear that the Nazis are evil people when you play through Wolfenstein. It's not even an if or a maybe. It is unimaginably clear.
Hitler is not somebody to look up to. When we finally see Hitler, his mind is completely gone, and he spends most of his on-screen time vomiting, crying for his mother, or in the fetal position. But with the rank and file Nazis, Wolfenstein is a little bit more hands-off. It lets you experience, even in a small way, what the normalization of Nazism might look like. So let's go back to that small town. Talk to everybody. What do we do with the fact that in this entire town, there are a grand total of 2 people that we could call good guys? The first one is a newspaper seller who whispers to you that he supports your movement, but he's too much of a coward to actually say that out loud.
One Reichsmark. Say, mister, you look familiar to me. Are you some kind of celebrity? Mister, you... Oh, God. If you are who I think you are, I just want you to know I am behind you all the way.
And then he goes back to selling Nazi newspapers. The only guy who's willing to tell the truth to a powerful figure is this homeless drunk guy lying down by a dumpster. He thinks you're a Nazi and he starts yelling at you.
Well, I won't tell you, because you're a fucking Nazi traitor. Uh-huh. But you I can trust. Oh.
And then he goes back to talking to his bottle. Which one of these would you be? Which one do you want to be? The cowardly guy who's still selling propaganda? The lady who's sucking up to the Nazi officer? The one guy who spoke the truth and became an outcast for doing it? Most people will comply. And look, I take back what I said earlier. Maybe you wouldn't join the Nazi party. Maybe you'd be one of the few that would fight. Maybe you'd be BJ. Maybe you'd be Super Spesh. But maybe you'd be this guy and end up here. When we look at those...
Yeah, this also gives that we live in a world where, like, information is so readily available and we have so many different tools of conversation and the dissemination of information, right? Where, like, living in the 1960s or 1930s Germany, the only people you knew and you talked to were your neighbors. You weren't talking to people fucking states away. They lived in a completely different context in a different era. And, like, the whole thing about, like, some people will comply is definitely true. But I think we also live in a world where so many other people can get in contact with each other that the rates at which people will be willing to comply or be willing to fight back are much different. And I think we've seen a lot of that with people, like, trying to organize protests and stuff right now with stuff going on.
Awful, evil people in our textbooks and think, I would have done the right thing. We sometimes forget that those people probably had their own textbooks and thought the same thing about themselves.
No. People back then did not have the same level of knowledge and not to say sophistication, but, like, we now have the hindsight of seeing that these evil things did not pan out for the people in charge, for the people at the heads of regimes, and that they rely on misinformation and hatred and bigotry, and eventually fall to either infighting or being crushed by people who would think better of them. We live in a completely different context. For us to be, like, sitting here and pointing to Hitler as an example whatsoever is already an immediately different thing from where we are now and from what like some random like dude in Tennessee in 1930 would have thought of Nazis, you know?
The times and the locations are different, but when you play through this game, you might start thinking that the questions have always been the same.
If you hear him pausing the video, it's kind of funny. This is like a video where like he's not wrong, like he's got his mind in the right place, but the organization structure of it, the editing of it, this script could have totally used a second pass and have a little bit more bite into it, you know? Yeah, different eras, things change. But like, he did a whole lot. He spent like that whole video saying, "Is this weird?" Because America was also kind of racist back in the day. And if you have any semblance of intelligence, then yeah, you would know that is true. He also never answered the question.
Remember, joined a group that you didn't agree with, or voted for a group you didn't like. Would you keep quiet about it so that it didn't cause arguments at the dinner table? If you knew your country was fighting a war to oppress people somewhere else in the world, would you speak up? What if it affected your friendships? What if it affected your job? If it was more convenient to pretend not to see things, would you eventually start to not see them? And if you decided, finally, that enough was enough, what would you do about it? Argue? Vote? Fight? Who's the terrorist? Of course, none of this stuff is mandatory to beat the game. You don't have to deal with almost any of this if you don't want to. You don't have to pick up any of those extra readable newspapers. And if you think some of those Nazi conversations might feel a little bit too close to home and upset you, you can shut them up by just shooting the offending characters before they start talking. I mean, if you're feeling triggered, pull the trigger. Problem solved.
If you're feeling triggered, I would say, first of all, you have some very bad comprehension disabilities. Or maybe you're a little bit sympathetic to the Nazi plight, which in that case, breathe water. Or something, man. I don't know. Like, you got to figure that out.
I don't think this game was meant to change anybody's mind about anything, and I don't think it has to. If you're far right, or if you're an actual Nazi, you probably just ignore the story. And the further left you are, you're more likely you are to find some of the black characters a little bit flat and maybe even exploitative. I'm not saying Wolfenstein has all the answers or even any answers, but if you're willing to meet the game where it is, or maybe better said, if you're willing to let the game meet you where you are, and treat it as another way to think about something that most people avoid thinking about, you'll probably find yourself asking yourself some questions. But hey, who knows?
Don't say who knows. Don't do a 43-minute fucking long video where you're breaking down these complicated socio-political topics and end the video with, well, who knows, you know? Who's really to say? Are the Nazis really bad? Who knows? That is the most fucking cowardly shit in the world to pull. The video basically boiled down to, like, Nazis are bad, but, like, America also kind of sucks. And if you're a smart person, if you're a person who knows their history and knows, like, the smallest semblance of, like, social justice, yeah, sure. But, like, that's the most, it's a compromised way of phrasing it. Yeah, it's, like, the most inoffensive way of being like, maybe the Nazis were bad. Maybe they weren't. Who knows? What the fuck are you talking about? No, they were bad. They sucked. They were awful. And yes, the history of America and America's racism is very intertwined with Nazism back then and even still today. You know, we've got people at the inauguration of the president hitting the Sieg Heil. We have people leading the Department of Homeland Security using Nazi-ish slogans to pursue violence against other countrymen in this series of states against other Americans. It's a very pussy way of going about it. I don't appreciate that. But anyways, that'll be it for tonight. Tomorrow, maybe more bullshit we'll look at. Maybe it won't be 2 hours of nothing, of yapping. Maybe Space Marine 2. We'll see. It'll also depend on how my mouth is feeling. It's kind of been sucky this entire time. But anyways, thank you guys so very much for watching. We will see you either tomorrow or next weekend. Whenever. Who knows? Bye. Stay cool. Have fun. Be awesome.